everyone. Welcome to the Cynthia Linox Show. I am your host, Cynthia Linox, your unapologetic deconstruction coach, here to remind you that this is your season. This is your season of self discovery. This is your season to deconstruct from everything in your life that no longer serves you. It is your season to slay. It is your season to dismantle. It is your season to just get rid of things that no longer serves you. You want to create a new environment, not only mentally, but your surroundings, because your surroundings influence your thought and vice versa. So I want to encourage you to pay attention to that. It hit me this weekend personally. This weekend I woke up and I thought, feng shui. I need to feng shui my environment, my home. And I woke up and I thought, wait a minute, because I generally like declutter things like clothing, get rid of clothing. If I haven't worn it in, if I haven't worn something in 6 months or so, or if it's been worn 2 seasons, whatever it is, I give it away. I have this organization that comes to the house and they'll pick up a bag of clothing and so forth. But this time, this feng shui had to do with my environment. I wanted to get rid of all the things that no longer serve me. I've got these accessories in my stored in my house, and some linens, new linens that no longer, the colors don't match anymore, towels, and a whole bunch of stuff that, some are new, some are slightly used, but I no longer have use for it. And there are these organizations that would take these type of donations and put it to use. So I just woke up and, got to work, and what I wanted to do was really, because when you declutter, and even though those were nicely folded in drawers and in closet space and so forth, but they were just sitting there. They were just sitting there with no use. And I know, like in my uh, primary bathroom, we have these shelves, and I needed some room. And then I thought, wait a minute, you're sitting, all these nice towels are sitting folded and so forth, but I have no use for it. So anyway, I got rid of all of those. And what you're actually doing when you're decluttering is making room for the new. You are allowing the flow of energy. You want the flow of energy to flow freely in your environment. And so when you move with purpose, that's what happens. And as I got rid of all of that, we packed it up and, put it in the back of my car. That's another thing you also want to declutter, your vehicle. My vehicle is always decluttered because I don't keep anything in my trunk. I keep nothing in my car. You can come and sit in my car anytime because the seats are always, you know, clean and ready to be seated. And my trunk, I leave it. It's got that little storage in the back that closes, so you see nothing at all. That gives me a sense of freedom. Again, I always say, do what works for you. But when you declutter your life, your mind, your environment, your vehicle, there you are making room for the new. You're making room for new stuff. You're making room for energy to flow freely in your surrounding. Another thing that I did, we have this planned also because I had read up on that. I'm just sharing these things with you because there are things that benefit me, but you want to discover what works for you, and that's what you will do, because guess what? That would be your original step, practice position. That would come from you to you, and that will work for you. So what else did I do? Yeah, so I got rid of all that. Oh, we are talking about the plant. We have this snake plant. It's called a mother-in-law's tongue or something, those pretty plants. And so one of the things that we did was to we had one in our bedroom, and that kicks out a lot of energy. It allows energy to flow freely in your surrounding. And they said that at night it really aids in your sleep experience. And that works for us. Again, find what works for you, but that works for us. So we have this plan. We've had it. We bought it about a couple weeks ago, and we had it there. But then it came to mind. It's like, oh wow, and I just made sure that it was positioned in the right way, because when you're feng shui, you have to read it up. You have to, anyway, when you're feng shuiing your environment, you want to place it at the right position in the house and so forth. So that's what I was into this weekend. And I feel light. It made me feel lighter, mentally, physically, emotionally. I feel simply lighter. So I want to encourage you, to start not only deconstructing, but decluttering. And decluttering is like deconstructing from the things that no longer serve you. You deconstruct from political ideology, from racial biases, from religious doctrine. You deconstruct from traditional norms, conventional practices. You want to deconstruct from everything that no longer serves you. And they will show up. There's no order. They will show up in your life. And as they show up, you take action. You do it right away. Whether it's a feeling, whether it's a thought, you move on it immediately. Don't procrastinate, because if you procrastinate, it'll be a while before you get to it. But if you are purposeful and if you are intentional, you can make it happen right away. One of the things I want to share also is that when it comes to you, pay attention to yourself and start. People call it affirmation, but to me, it's more like taking a close look at yourself and start identifying those qualities that are of you, the qualities of yourself that you so enjoy. And don't be afraid to not only think of yourself highly, but to pat yourself on the back. Recognize you're the one. It's important that, when you talk about discovering your worth and your value, you are the one that determines what that is. Because if you expect it from the outside in, it's not going to happen. It is simply not going to happen, because I don't know what it is with humans. It's easy to celebrate or take note, pay attention to things that are negative or pain, suffering, misfortune. But when it comes to celebrating people's success, people's uh, wins, uh, champions, and things like that, we vacillate and we hesitate. So it's important that you pay attention to that of yourself. Again, this is part of your deconstruction. Not only deconstruction, but this is part of your self-discovery. You're discovering who you are and the things that you like about yourself. And once you determine what those things are, then you will be bold enough to speak them unapologetically. Don't apologize for thinking good about yourself. I shared something on social media a few days ago, and I did that purposefully, because I woke up and I was, some memories. We had some pictures over the Christmas holidays. We spent it with our families in Costa Rica, and uh, one of our family members took us to the mountains up there with a friend, a friend and their families and so forth. It was just a wonderful time. We had a wonderful 2 weeks Christmas holidays with the family, and these were friends that we were meeting for the first time, and just great energy. It's just amazing when you meet people and you know that, there's an instant connect, there's great energy. Well, Costa Ricans are like that. Costa Ricans are just the friendliest people on earth. And that's true. They are the friendliest people on earth, kind and everything. But the point is, we were there with, we went to this beautiful restaurant. It was more than a restaurant. It was like a hotel, a very luxurious hotel. But the restaurant was like an open in the patio section, and then you've got the greenery outside. It was just absolutely gorgeous. So we're seated there, and my husband is over there playing with the other men, and they were playing billiard and so forth. But yeah, billiard. And Carolina, one of the friends of our family, she because I think I may have said something to my husband, and I said amor so and whatever. And so she looked at me and she says, how long have you guys been married? That was her question to me. And I said 34 wonderful years. And she says, wow, that's great. She says 34 years of ups and downs. And she caught me by surprise because I never think of it in those terms. And so I paused for a second, and I was trying to, in my mind, kind of like make an inventory, like what how do I respond to that, like what have been the downtimes, the downs and so forth. And I said, well, we've had 34 wonderful years, but I said, they've been really good years. And the only downtimes that I can think of are the times when my mom passed away. That was a very sad occasion for me and my husband, because he had a good relationship with my mother. And also when my brother-in-law, my husband's brother, passed away and so forth. And then uh, Rebecca, someone else, she chimed in and she says, but those are external events, life events. It's not part of, like, what would disrupt the flow of your relationship. She said, so I guess it would be 34 years of ups. And then, you would say, just like I would say, no one can go through 34 years with no downtime. No one. That's impossible. And the more I think about it, and then Rebecca said, then I said, yeah, it's been 34 years of ups. And so, I'm thinking that I have always hesitated to share that because of fear of criticism, judgment, and things of that nature. But then Rebecca said, she said, that's because of the way you view life. It's not because you haven't had downtimes. It's just because it's the way you see life. It's because of the perspective that you give to situations. For you, there is never a crisis. There are just opportunities to resolve issues. And Rebecca is the one that calls me a serial optimist and positive thinker and so forth. And the more I thought about it, I thought, you know what? She's right. She is absolutely right. And it comes to a point where I have to own it. But see, no one can do that for me. I had to own it. Yes, I am a serial optimist and a serial positive thinker. And the way I choose to view life itself, you know, there's never a crisis. Years ago, I remember someone gave me this book. My major in college is psychology, and someone gave me this book, and they said, this book is called Science of the Mind, and it's by Ernest Holmes. And I read that book, and in it he talks about how you can program and manage your mind, and just really condition your mind to do and to entertain the thoughts that you want, the way you want your life to be. And I took that. That is something that it's too late to try to tell me not to think that way. And in all my life, and it doesn't mean, of course, my husband and I, we have disagreements. We have hot disagreements, and we are not excellent communicators when it comes to stuff. We're both passionate about things, and we would, state our case and all that. But one thing that we have made our practice pretty much is, before we go to bed, we kiss each other goodnight and, giggle and stuff like that. On occasion, sometimes I don't want to be bothered because I'm so freaking not happy, mad or something, and I don't. But we make that a practice. That's part of our MO, and it's a fun thing that we do. But yes, we have our disagreement, but that's not downtime. That's just having a disagreement. And but what I have found is that the way I condition my mind, and I am sharing this with you, my friend, so that you can do what works for you, discover what works for you, and do that because it will work. It all depends on, because, the quality of your life is contingent upon the quality of your mindset. The quality of your life is based upon your mindset. Whatever mindset you have, that is how your life is going to unfold. Whatever if you think negative, if you think as a pessimist, if you're always saying, well, yeah, this is going to happen to me and that's going to happen to me, and thinking those terms, yes, it will. It most definitely will. So that is something that, it's not even a belief. That is something that I know, and that's the way I program my mind in the things I say. My husband, like, he would say something, and I would get to the root of it. I would get to the root, and I would ask him a question again. He said, well, I'm telling you this, but I don't know how it started or something like that. And he knows, he's learned how to communicate with me because it's not just the superficial stuff. You have to understand what's causing it in order to have clarity. So I have learned to program my mind so that my life will flourish. And that is what, when I share with you, my friend, that's where we're going with this. There's no time to waste. You don't want to waste any more time. This is your time to flourish. This is your time to prosper. And this is not selling false hope. This is saying you have what it takes to take you where you want to go. And I don't care what situation you are in, you can get there. This morning, my husband and I, we had this conversation. We were on the way to have our taxes done, to see the CPA, to have our taxes done, and on the way we were talking about this same thing that I post, and talking about up down times and bad experiences in life and so forth. And I said, in reality, I've had some tough times. I don't know. I guess we were talking about cars or whatever, and I said to him, and I said, in my entire life, I have never been poor. I said that to my husband. I said, ever. I have never been poor. I've never been broke, busted, disgusted, ever, never, ever have had that experience. And he said, and I said, even though, and this is before I met him, there were periods of time that I didn't have a car. I did not have a car. And oh, I know what happened. We were driving and we saw this person walking. Seems like he was walking to work. And in that community, in that area, because you had to cross the freeway and blah blah, and nobody walks. If somebody's walking, it's because they don't have a car. And then I remembered, yeah, there was a time that I didn't have a car. This is before I met my husband. I had lost my job and lost my car and just situations. Now, what I had were good friends. I had good friends, and they said, no problem. They said, I'll pick you up. You take me to work. I had, my friend, she had a Volvo. She said, I'll pick you up. You take me to work, and you have my car. Go do what you need to do. So even though even though I didn't own a car, so my husband said, "Oh, so you were in between cars?" I didn't own a car, but I didn't have to. I didn't have to walk. I didn't have to walk. There was not one time that I was without a ride. And then I had this other friend. She had a car, and she said, "Not a problem." She said, "You take me to work, and you can have my car all day." So even though that was a situation, again, I hadn't I was single at that time, and even though that could have been a situation because not only did I not have a car, I didn't have a job. So there was no possibility of me, I didn't even, I had to get a job first. But in order to get a job, you have to get a job where you can go back and forth and so forth. Anyway, so I got a job, and then I was able to buy a vehicle. And fortunately, we had this friend that, he had this, he sell cars, and he sold me this antique Benz, Mercedes Benz. It was a nice car, and so I got some wheels. But there was a long time where I didn't have a car. Imagine that. I didn't have a car. And it's not like a big thing, but that was like a down moment. But I didn't see it that way because my friends were there, and I was able to use their cars. And I went back and forth. I was able to, once I got a job, I was able to go to work. And that's how I saw it. So even though I didn't have a job, I wasn't poor, because to be poor, that's how you have to think. Poor, lack, broke. I never ever say things like that, and you shouldn't either. You shouldn't think that way because there's always a solution. I needed to get a job, and once I got a job, as a matter of fact, that happened to me like twice. Was it twice? Yeah, because one time I went out and I had the Benz, and that was great. But then another time I went out and I bought a car. I was on my own, and I bought a lemon. Look, I've had some growing up to do. I bought this car, nice looking car on the outside, but it was a lemon. It was a lemon, but one of those sour lemons. And I had issues with that. So, I have been through situations in my life where I could see it as down. And I don't know what it is that you may be going through now. You may be going through a situation where you didn't have your own place. I have been there. A time where, I had to give up my apartment, just issues. But because of the way I think, it never seemed like it didn't have me crying. My brain was just trying to figure out, you have to get a job, you need to go interview. Back then you you would prepare your resume and send it in, whatever, and I could really talk myself into getting a job. That was not difficult. And getting a job, getting paid well, and so forth. So it's they're the things that you put in your mind. So even though I had those down times in my life, I was never broke, never poor, because my dad always told me, you deserve a good life. My dad told me that when I was, I don't know, it could have been 13, 14 years old. He said, you deserve a good life. And I've always kept that. Those are one of the things that I don't want to deconstruct from, those that thought that my dad put into my brain. So whatever it is you're going through, you may be at a place where you don't have a place of your own. Just know in your mind that you have the ability not only to think it through, but to find solutions. Don't be desperate about things, and know that it will happen. When you have a situation, it's never a crisis. Last night, here I am trying to print out we had to fill out this form because we had an appointment this morning early with our CPA to do the taxes. And back in January, uh, my husband had all the papers together. He had them ready and so forth. And he said, can you get them ready so that we can have it ready? And I said, well, yeah, I'll get it. He was irritated. We had this little spat, and which created a stressful situation between us because, he likes things done, a year in advance, and I just wait until I am ready to do it. So I waited until last night, minute, the last minute. And so the CPA, they send us a PDF. You have to print it and then fill it out, and you have it ready with your paperwork to take it to them and so forth. So, I open the email, download the PDF, and I'm getting ready to print it. The printer wouldn't work. Now, this is a brand new printer, a couple months, well, not a couple months, maybe a year old. And I can get it to work. So in my mind, I said, and this is how I started. The worst that could happen, because my husband depends on me and he trusts me to do it. But if I say I'm going to get it done, I get it done. So I said, I started from the worst. What's the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario is that I can't get the printer fixed, and we will get there without the paperwork filled out. They will have to give us a set of paperwork and we will have to fill it out there. That's the worst that could happen. He would be upset because back in January, he asked me to take care of that and I didn't. And I thought, okay, well, that's the worst that could happen. I mean, so what? So if he gets upset, we just work it out. But then I thought, this printer, I have to fix it because it's not broken. It's just something that everything that's IT, I learned it on my own. I get in there and I discover things myself. Anyway, bottom line is I was able to get it fixed, print the form, fill it out, and it was done. What I'm saying is that number one, I dispelled a situation that could have been stressful. I mean, I could have gotten all bent out of shape and worked up and not wanting to disappoint him and all that kind of. But I said, okay, so if I don't get it done and he's disappointed, then that's just life. That's just life, and it's not going to stop us from keeping our appointment and having the form filled out and so forth. So why even stress out? But the point is, we were able to get it fixed. We were able to get it fixed. Or I was able to get it fixed. And I printed it and totally avoided stress. So when those things happen in my life, I applaud myself. I'm like, Cynthia, that's just so badass. That is just such a great, I just think that I'm able to do the things that I need to do to make my life easy. And so can you, my friend. Going back to this story when, they're talking about all this 34 years of all ups. Yeah, guess what? That's the way I choose to see it. And why? Because of the way my husband and I function, it lends itself to that. After you've been married for a long time, I would hear people say things like, marriage is hard, marriage is hard, marriage is hard. And I always uh, negated that. I always said, absolutely not. But in essence, it can be. It all depends on how you look at it. It all depends on how you see it. Marriage can be hard. But and it all depends on where you want to take your marriage. But there are certain things that you can do to make it interesting, relevant, passionate, spicy, just juicy, current, and to stay in love. You have to be intentional. You have to be purposeful. Any relationship for that matter. I'm not just talking about marriage. I'm talking about whether you have a boyfriend, a partner, a girlfriend, whatever it is, things that are important to you. And I'm talking about like one-on-one relationships and so forth. and you've got to put some gusto into it. You have to remain curious, and that's one of the things that we do. We do things. We remain curious. We remain curious about everything in life, in the things that are relevant. We remain curious. We're always exploring, and we're kind of a couple that, when I learn something, I share it with my husband. When I go someplace, like sometimes I go out with my girlfriends and I would go explore a new restaurant, I would want to take him. If it's a great experience, I would want to take him so that he could have that experience as well, and vice versa. So we set ourselves up so that we can be curious, we can remain passionate toward each other and looking forward to sharing the things that we learn, and we share it in conversations. You share these conversations, and you have these, the you share just about everything. We challenge our beliefs, any limiting beliefs that emerges, that comes up, like, oh yeah, this is the way it's always been done. Things like that, we challenge it, and we seek to change it every time. I can't think of anything right now, but just things. Sometimes you do things by repetition. You do the same thing over and over, and whether it's in your personal life, in your intimate life, in your social life. You may go to some place, you take the same wine all the time, and but now we're like, well, we're going to take a wine that we know they like, and we'll take a wine that we know we like, and that kind of stuff. It's if it's a situation where you can, contribute wine to the mix and so forth. And you stay current. You keep learning things. You remain practical. I'm looking here because I've made some notes here. You remain practical in the things that you learn. You learn to apply the practical aspect of things. And you don't, I know for many of you that are going through religious deconstruction, you're trying to apply practical uh, things to situations in your life, other than, because I know religion gives you false hope. That has been my experience. And you pray, you wait, you pray, you wait, and as I've mentioned in previous shows, I know people that's been waiting for years for things to happen, and things just haven't happened. So we try to apply practical things, use practical applications to situations, experiences. That's what works, because it's something that you are able to do. Whatever you are able to do, that's what you will apply. Make things practical. If you need a job, if you need more income, don't sit around and pray. You can do that if that works for you, but it has to work. But if it hasn't been working for you, then you need to go out and look for a job, whatever it is, or improve your skills if you want to change career or whatever it is. You have got the ability to do that. It all starts in your mind. I cannot even stress that enough, because I know what it does. When you make a decision to apply the things that you know, the things that you want, the things that you desire, the things that you uh, are not even, you want to get yourself out of a striving mindset, that you're striving for something. I don't like that mindset. Just like being broke, or poor, and I don't subscribe to that. The same as striving. To me, striving is just like people saying they're going through a trial, or they're going through a test. Those are all religious construct. Those are all words that means nothing. A test of what? A trial of what? No, you have a situation. You just need to do what it takes, find out what you need to do to resolve it, regardless of what it is. And if something is beyond your control, know your boundaries. Know the things that you can control. Know the things that you can manage, and you deal with that. And in most situations, once you decide you want something, my friend, once you decide you want this to go this course, it will happen. It will happen. You have to trust yourself. Back to my story about 34 years of amazing, a wonderful marriage. So I post that, and I did that unapologetically. And I thought, you know what? People will be encouraged by that, to know that, don't let people tell you, no, it can never happen. It's all your perspective, the way you see things. And it's like Rebecca said, with you, there's never a crisis. There are just opportunities and situations to be resolved. But then somebody chimed in, and they did a comment on my post. This was a Facebook post, and they did a comment, and I'm gonna just try to capsulize it here. And they said that they said, I used to be this way. In other words, that way, with that mindset, thinking, positive all the time and being optimistic. And see, for me, at this point, there's no effort in that. That's just the way I am wired. So when somebody says, oh, you don't have to be positive all the time, I'm wired that way. So do that for you. You don't have to be positive all the time. That works for you. But for me, and you know what? It may be my coping mechanism. Guess what? It works for me. It works for me because I can pause. The other night, I was in bed, and before I fell asleep, no, I wasn't in bed. No. Anyway, the point is, I sat, and some thoughts came across my mind. They were negative. They were scary thoughts. And immediately I had to replace those thoughts. I didn't like the way I felt. I didn't like the way they were roaming around in my mind. They were, thoughts that were not positive. I don't like that feeling, knowing that I can control it. So I changed it right away. There are a lot of beautiful things that I can think of. That's why sometimes I repost some pictures of my life, because they are moments. I am one that I am a serial, that's another one, a serial photo taker. I take pictures of everything because I love to remember my moments. Coping mechanism, I don't care what you call it, that works for me. Wherever I go, I'm going to take a picture, because when I look back, I can really relish the fun time that I experience with you. Again, discover what works for you. It is your season of self-discovery, to discover what works for you. You're not going to go find out. You're going to discover, because it's already there. You just need to have the boldness to bring it out. Anyway, this person said that there was a time that she was that way, always seeing everything in a positive light. That's what she said. But she said the last few years she's had some very eye-opening experiences with family health, and a lot of her family members passed away one after another, and that just changed her way of seeing things, and it's just put her in a grieving mode. And some of the family members that remain are not nice, or they don't care anymore, and so forth, and they're just too numb to care about anyone, she says, anymore. And she said, but the whole idea of her commenting on my post is, she wanted to say to my audience that my experience, don't strive to be like me, because allow yourself to heal, to grieve. And she went through this whole thing, and it's wonderful that I'm that way, but the journey, uh, I want to reiterate to others like me who don't resonate with this story. What she's saying is that she does not resonate with my story, and that it is okay that they are not my audience, that they are not there yet. Accept who you are and stop striving to be where you are not yet. I mean, that's not her audience, that's my audience, and I know who you are. You are my audience, not her. And I know where she was coming from. And I said, I'm glad you have a perspective. I didn't want to get into it because I'm at a place where I don't need to, I don't owe you an explanation at all. And I don't have to give an account or an excuse or whatever. You can think whatever you want to think about me. And that's okay. That is your right. But this is somebody that I appreciate. And I also know that a couple of weeks back, there was some kind of a breakdown post that she did about family stuff that was aired on the air and so forth. And so I'm just thinking, well, this person, empathy kicked in. This person's probably going through a hard time, and so forth, and also some physical situations that they're going through. So I just cut it short. I don't want to go back and forth because really, whatever impression people have of you, you cannot change it. That is their perspective. That's their perception. That's their impression. That's their thought, their view, their position. Those are their thoughts about you, which has nothing to do with me. And in most cases, they are projecting who they are. So you can't get upset at people. You just have to know who you are and stand in your truth. Not only stand in your truth, you must own it. You must own what is yours unapologetically, and you show up in your whole self. Some people will like you and some people won't like you. What's important is that you like yourself. You know who you are and you like who you are. That is what is important. And not be afraid to pat yourself on the back. Because if you don't validate yourself, if you don't affirm your own self, that's why, we have affirmations. There's some people that go through affirmations every day that have to convince themselves that they're worthy, that they are, they have value and all of that. But with her saying to my audience, uh, don't try to be like me, I tell you that all the time. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just reminding you that you have it within you. I'm not the goalpost because what works for me may not work for you. You may not be comfortable in patting yourself on the back publicly or saying, as a matter of fact, I said, with all of that, I realized what an amazing woman I am, and my husband gets to love me. And I mean that. He gets to love me. He gets to love me. Conversely, I also get to love him because he is a wonderful human being, a great man. Husband is too generic. He's a great man. And we enjoy each other. And I say that unapologetically. I'm not making excuses. I'm not trying to, no, but you can't wait for people to affirm you. You don't need, it doesn't matter how many likes you get on your post. It's not a matter of likes or of people giving you hearts. It doesn't matter. When you know who you are, that is enough. That says you are enough, and that is what you must know. You must know that about yourself. And it doesn't matter what situation you're in, and you know what? Whether you're overcoming physical challenges or financial challenges, or you may not have the opportunity to be on your own, to have a place of your own, a car of your own. I've been through situations like that. But again, my mind always tells me that, look, this is temporarily. It's like my husband said this morning, oh, yeah, you were between cars. Yeah, I was between cars because I had a car, then I didn't have a car, and then I eventually got a car. Again, that was all before I met him. and before I landed a great job, um, because again I was also building my career and all of that, but I just knew that I deserved to have a great life. And so do you. You have to know that. What are your options? To live uh, sad? We have a society have the tendency of celebrating suffering more than they celebrate people's triumph. When people have something tragic that's happened to them, it's so easy to express thoughts and prayers and so forth. And when there's a GoFundMe, people contribute to GoFundMe and so forth. But whenever somebody has something good happen to them, something good, they graduate, they got their doctorates, they were able to, fly around the world, they were, took their first cruise, they were able to, buy their dream car, send their kids to the best college based on their, again, perspective. They were able to buy their dream house, whatever it is that's important to you. But and sometimes people refrain from even sharing it. I don't, certain things I don't share publicly simply because I have my circle, but within my circle I would say, guess what? I whatever. And my friends, I know who to share it to. It's like when we come back from traveling, because we travel a lot, and not everybody is happy about your opportunity to travel and to go places and to do whatever it is that you do. Don't let that be you. Celebrate others, because you know what? People talk about the law of attraction. It's the law of suggestion, the law of assumption. Assume that the universe is uh, out to get you, to bring good fortune to your life. I assume that. I take it for granted. I take it for granted. Opportunities, circumstances, just situations, you take it for granted. But it's all, and I know, my friends, I know that, some of you are still dealing with your religious deconstruction and trying to get rid of those thoughts, the trauma of believing that you're not worthy, and the trauma that you believing that you're not, you won't go to heaven and so forth. It is incumbent upon you to search things out so that you can arrive at your truth. Because you know what? When you know the truth, that is the truth that will set you free. Free to be your authentic self and to live your life organically, where you don't have to perform for people to see what you do and so forth. You don't want to live a performative life. You get tired of it. It's not sustainable. It is not sustainable. It is not sustainable. You want to live now. You want to have fun. You want to enjoy your life. Because a lot of the things that we do, I heard this story the other day, and I thought I'm going to change it up a little bit, because not change it up, but the way I understood it. There was this guy, this man in Africa, in a village in Africa, and he had this land, and he had a lot of animals, and he had these elephants. I don't know how many, 15 elephants or so forth, and these elephants was now huge, the size of an elephant, and there was a safari going by, stopped at his farm, his land, and saw that the elephants stayed within the confines of his property. They stayed right within, these big elephants, and they wouldn't run or go beyond the confines of his property. So one of the tourists asked him, and this is based on a real story, asked him, how do you domesticate an elephant? How do you domesticate an elephant that they are not bulging through the fence and going into the field? And he said that is really easy. He said, the moment an elephant is born, you take a little string, you wrap it around one of its legs, and you tie it to the fence. You tie it to the fence, and it is a string that they could pull and it will just burst. I mean, break. And as they grow, their foot is tied to that string, which is attached to the fence. So they will grow with a conditioned mind, thinking the distance of the cord, the rope, it's a rope, it's a thin rope. That is the distance, the only distance they can move around in. It's a conditioning mechanism. It's the way they are conditioned. An elephant, imagine that. And he says, oh, we can do that to any animal, whether it's a chimp, a tiger, a jaguar, a lion. We can do that to any animal that we wish to domesticate for whatever reason. You just when they're babies, you just tie a rope on their leg and then you attach it to the fence. And as they grow, a lion will not know that they can go and hunt to eat because they were conditioned. And that's what happens to us. When we are babies, when we are little, we are conditioned to think a certain way. We are conditioned to behave a certain way. We are conditioned to act a certain way, to behave a certain way, to think a certain way. So, and then we grow and we have the same train of thoughts. Our mind is conditioned. I call that mental slavery. It's like your mind is colonized. It's mental slavery. Back in the day when they had the slaves and the the European went to colonize them, first they were mistreated, or even here in the US. And you had to train the slave and so forth, but after a while you give them after a while their mind became so indoctrinated, so conditioned, that they no longer needed to be uh, trained physically. Why? Because their mind was conditioned. Their mind was conditioned, and they knew their place, they knew what they had to do. And today it's a whole different thing. It's called systemic slavery or whatever. And so many people are, and you don't realize it. We don't realize that we call it religion. But think about it. Your mind is conditioned and you will not go outside of the box. Why? Because you're afraid. You're afraid that you won't make it to an afterlife. You're afraid that you're going to upset a deity. You're afraid of what people are going to say about you. You're afraid that you're going to be put through a trial, a test, needing a breakthrough, go through tribulation. You are simply afraid. Let that not be you, my friend. Break out. Break out. Get rid of the box. Don't even go outside of the box. Get rid of the box. Break out. You don't have much time. You don't have much time. Whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, you do not have much time. You've got to start living now. So discover who you are so that you can become your true, authentic self. Because once you get to a place, as a matter of fact, my husband recently said to me, he said, you have reached a dangerous place of not caring what people say or think about you. He said, you have reached a very dangerous place. Of course, we laugh about that. And I said, why do you say that? He said, because of the way, the way you think, the things you post. He says, a lot of the stuff you're just very controversial, very polemic, very, uh, you know, anti-status quo. You're just out of the norm, outside of the norm. Well, yeah, just because I've gotten to know who I am and I like who I am. And you should too, unapologetically. Don't apologize. And even if people say, you're arrogant or you're too proud, it's not about that. It's about once you get to know who you are and you realize the amazing person that you are, feed into that, acknowledge that, own it, because nobody's going to tell you that as much as you can tell yourself. And as you tell yourself, you begin to walk that way. And because you think it becomes organic. It's like I said, for me being optimistic and a positive thinker, that's not performance. That's just who I am. I snap right into problem resolution. How can I fix this? What can I do? Sometimes with my husband, I remain silent because he has a brain, and he's that way as well. He thinks. As a matter of fact, this morning I had to compliment him on something because he was like, he thinks ahead, and it's a good quality. It's great. He thinks ahead and he sees down the road. And sometimes I'm a little more casual and nonchalant, and sometimes we clash, but that's okay as long as it remains non-stressful, because I don't like this stress thing. I was like, relax, and I'll get it done, whatever. So but he thinks ahead, he plans ahead, and it works for him. That works for him, and that's a good thing. Discover what works for you and do that, my friend. Discover what works for you and do that. Be bold and unapologetic in everything that you do as you walk through this whole journey of discovering your true, authentic self. And don't be afraid to slay, to dismantle, and to deconstruct from everything that no longer serves you. As a matter of fact, if you are provoked or are encouraged to feng shui your environment, go ahead and feng shui your environment. Declutter everything. Get rid of everything that no longer serves you, and allow new and fresh energy to flow freely, not only in your mind, but in your environment, in your surroundings, in your home, in your vehicle, everything that surrounds you. And with that, my friend, I'm going to leave you with that so that you can give that some thought and discover what works for you, because what works for you, therein lies your freedom. Now, every Thursday, 2 p.m. Oh, you know what I meant to tell you? Last week, I said that we were going to have Dr. Mark Daniel on the show. Well, guess what? I should have mentioned that earlier. There were some technical difficulties, and you know, it didn't work out for this show. So we were in contact and determined that we will try it another time. He's in another country, so I'm not sure if it was the Wi-Fi connection. We don't know what it is, but we will find out what it is. But he did write, and after we couldn't connect, we just simply could not connect. We tried and we couldn't connect. So anyway, I will see you next Thursday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here. Now, look at these icons: Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can access the program 24/7 if you can't join me at 2 p.m. every Thursday. In addition to that, if you wish to drop me a note, go to the CynthiaLinoxShow.com, scroll all the way to the bottom, and you'll see that box there. You can shoot me an email. I am also a life coach. If you want to have a chat with me, I do offer a 30-minute complimentary chat just to make sure that we're a good match. And if you need someone to walk along with you to encourage you along the way during your journey, uh, I can be your person. Otherwise, there are great life coaches out there. I happen to be one of them and would love to work with you. So, hasta la próxima semana, amigos. Have a fantastic weekend, whatever you choose to do. And I will see you next Thursday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here. Ciao, amigos. Próxima semana. Luego, au revoir. Ciao. Tata.